What's up, everybody? This is Dave here from Comics Games Life, and I just finished Season 2 of Arcane. I know I'm coming up a little bit late here. I'm sure most of you watched it as it was premiering, but my schedule's been pretty packed, so I have a bit of a backlog on the things I've been watching. And before I get started, I want to give a spoiler alert because I am going to be going through and talking about the ending of Season 2. So the events that took place in Season 2, and to be honest, the entire series as a whole, it's been pretty emotional. But from the beginning of the show, all the way back in Season 1, I prepared myself for one of the two sisters to die. I just didn't know if it was going to be Vi or Jinx. But as the Season 2 finale was coming to a close, it seemed like this wouldn't be the case and both of them were going to survive. And I remember thinking at this point, telling myself, if one of them dies now, I'm going to be very disappointed and would make the series end on sort of a flat note, seeing as how they did such a great job of taking us through this emotional roller coaster. But then it happens. And I was right in my predictions because I totally felt disappointed once I saw Jinx sacrifice herself for Warwick. Because everything was already said and done. The battle seemed to have climaxed and the dust was settling. With Vi, Jinx, and Warwick all in the clock tower, with Warwick being unconscious, it seemed like all they needed to do was put him out of his misery and walk away. But then Vi has a bit of a breakdown, which is totally understandable for obvious reasons if you've been following the series, which gave Warwick a chance to shake himself awake, jump back into Berserker mode, and try to take out Vi. But ultimately, Jinx sacrifices herself and at the same time takes out Warwick and saves Vi's life. And as predicted, I was disappointed by this. But then the scenes that followed after this didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, why are they showing me this? What am I supposed to be seeing with Caitlyn looking at these blueprints? And what's with the final scene of the airship? And that's when my daughter came to me and broke it down. So my daughters are hardcore fans of the show, and they were able to fill me in on the details that I wasn't able to figure out for myself due to my surface level knowledge of the series. And the first thing my daughter told me was that Jinx is still alive. And immediately I thought she was going to break down more of a fan theory consisting of weak evidence that could possibly point to this conclusion. But no, as she explained, I realized that this wasn't the case and it was actually pretty obvious that Jinx was still alive. So there are three key points that she schooled me on. One, just before the explosion where it looked like Jinx self-deleted herself just to take out Warwick, if you pause the screen, you'll see a purple streak shooting out from the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Now, this same streak is what we see when she uses her shimmer abilities to move at lightning speeds. So this told me that she took herself out of harm's way just before the bomb went off. And number two, you have Caitlyn. In the scene where she's wearing an eye patch and she's analyzing the blueprints of the ventilation system where Jinx's grenade went off, we're shown an exit she would have been able to use to make her escape. And seeing as how Jinx had a vast knowledge of those systems, using them for her escape would have been pretty easy. Plus, you have Caitlyn holding a small piece of one of Jinx's bombs. So someone at some point had to go through the wreckage and confirm that there wasn't any evidence of Jinx's body at the scene. And lastly, number three, the last shot of the airship leaving the city. Now this is almost identical to the airship scene in Season 1, Episode 1, where a younger version of Jinx is watching that same airship travel through the sky and she tells her friends that one day she's gonna fly in one of those things. So putting all that together, it's pretty obvious that Jinx is alive. And especially with everything that was said during the conversation she had with Silco's ghost while imprisoned about breaking the cycle and stepping away. So if there are any of you out there who are listening to this that are disappointed that Jinx may no longer be with us, based on this evidence, you can rest assured that she's still alive. However, will we get to see her in other series down the line remains to be seen. And speaking of those upcoming series, I know Jinx and Vi aren't going to be the main focus. It would be nice to see them make some sort of cameo or possible Easter eggs like graffiti on the wall or some sort of verbal reference to the battle that happened in Piltover. Now there's one last thing that I'd like to mention, and that is I'd like to think that Echo was sitting right next to Jinx on that airship as it was leaving. Now this is totally coming from my own mind. However, there is a sliver of proof that may somewhat confirm this. So my daughter addressed my hope of this outcome by telling me that it's possible that the note he set on fire when everyone was paying homage to all the people they've lost during the war didn't have Jinx's name on it, but had Heimerdinger's name on it instead, because Echo knows that Jinx is still alive. I mean, this is just my hope because he kind of had it all when he was in that alternate universe. And I think he would have stayed there if it wasn't for his urgency to get back to his people who he knew needed his help. But now that the fighting has been done and the city is for the most part peaceful, he may feel like he doesn't need to stay there anymore. So that leaves a possibility that maybe he met up with Jinx at some point and they left together. But again, this is all made up in my mind. So to sum it all up, after my daughter broke this down to me, my previous disappointment when I thought Jinx had died completely went away and I was left with the satisfaction of a great ending to a nearly perfect show. Now, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, go ahead and throw your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section. Now, I appreciate you all for listening to my point of view on things, and I thank you for watching. So I'll see you next time.
Don't forget about me.